So with this very nice sunshine, I have a feeling that in about 3 weeks we can actually do some grazing sessions, because everywhere it is greening up and that looks very promising. So I'm here in front of A8 and I'm going to take you up there to have a peek at that pond that we have there. Let's see how that goes. And you can probably hear the ground is soft, and there you see there are things growing. Of course there is a lot of space between all the plants, but these green things there, that is forage. And it is just a question of 2-3 weeks for this to grow. So summer is starting very good. But then of course the thistles are also growing, and that is to be expected. They will be there in all those different places until the structure of the soil of the ground has vastly improved, and then they will disappear. Yeah, even here in the area where there is remnants from bale grazing, the thistles are growing. But, and here is a very interesting thing, they're mushrooms. And right next to it, there are more. Of course they will not last. In a day or two they will be gone. But with all this additional moisture here in the ground underneath the straw, the network is forming, and the oak trees have a symbiotic relationship with mycorrhizal fungi. So that is why they are here. And it's a very pretty sight. So all the things that we have been doing, they are kind of paying off. Not in euro, but in terms of fertility. Life is coming back. So that makes me very happy. That is what I want. I want this place to be nice and good looking and be full of life. And that's then also good for me and my family. So now let's open that gate here, or literally jump the fence, and see you up there. So here we are. And yes, we do have some water here. And it might not last for very long. So I think in a week there is nothing left, because it all infiltrated or evaporated. But it is definitely good that we dug this pond here. And the trees and shrubs on the berm all around, they are missing. But that will come. So at the bottom of this, on the outside, so let me take you over there and show you what I think we should be doing here. So the idea is to place some vetiver at the very bottom of this, maybe 2 or 3 rows, and then fill the rest up with shrubs and some trees. And there might be maybe 3 or 4 palovnias in the mix, but the rest should more be of the native type, because this is a permanent feature. And the palovnias, they might be helpful at the beginning, but I don't want them to dominate the place. This should not be a dehesa of palovnia trees. They are a tool. A very helpful one, but this should not be a palovnia plantation. That should not be the case. So in a case of a pond where there is moisture that can be stored on the inside and then also inside of the berm, given that I have a lot of vegetation to reduce evaporation and deep rooting plants like the vetiver grass and the trees. That should then help to keep the system alive even if the summer is pretty dry. So there is no need to do this in the exotic way all over. So that's the idea. Vetiver, native shrubs and trees on both sides, and probably some vetiver also on the inside, and the rest can then be sprinkled a little bit with 3 or 4 palovnias, just to have their big leaves and the additional biomass. But again, this is not the focus. This is just an idea because I'm showing you this, and we can talk about what we might be doing here. But this is zone A8, and also we will do in November this Miyawaki forest there in A7. We will not work on this for the time being. Our focus is on the compound over there, and when we are done with the compound on both sides of the compound, we will then continue. So that video, new approach, tells you that we will work around the pond in the south and in the north what we call zone B, and we will not venture out of this and do things elsewhere. Well, I thought I need to irrigate this afternoon, but just a few minutes ago there was a big downpour. Sky does not look like that, except that somehow, well, probably out of that came the rain all around. We have blue sky and the sun is there in the afternoon and everything is looking pretty nice. But that was a very good thing. It feels like we are in April. Also, we are at the beginning of June, almost. And that is pretty unusual. We never had this since 2018 when we started to do something here. And so this is pretty cool, because everywhere, see here, things are sprouting. And it is not supposed to happen, but it is, and I'm very happy about this. So here all over the place, things are sprouting. Unfortunately, I need to drive the backhoe over this in a couple of days, because I want to finish excavating the pond and move material here in order to fill that. And also these flowers here will probably be buried, but it's mostly that lower lying area where I want to fill this up, because I want to level the area. And yeah, what we also did earlier today is we harvested a bunch of vetiver. This needs to be split a little bit more, and we plan to collect more of it. Oh, actually this thing fell over. Let me quickly put it back into place. Now the soil is very soft, and this is possible. So this wire reminds the dogs not to go in there and not drink the water from that. It has no electricity, but the dogs remember, and that's enough of a sign to keep them out. And now that I'm here, I can show you something. So this plant there wants to grow and cover the ground, which is nice, but I don't want this, because I want the other things that we seeded here to come up. So a couple of days, or every couple of days, I go in here and cut it back a little bit. Also there and in between. So I need to be a little bit active here every time I see this, because what I want is the okra And the okra is this one here. So what looks like this and had a reddish stem, that is the okra. And that is what is supposed to go here. The seed we threw out here and covered it with the mix of straw and horse manure. But of course, there is seed from an earlier attempt of the Bermuda grass, and this is also taking off because it's a warm season grass. So now what some of you have told me about the Bermuda grass is happening, because now there's moisture, and before there wasn't. So I hope that I manage to keep the okra on top, and I have a feeling I also see here some mushrooms. Right, so there's mushrooms in here. So this is also a good sign. So the soil is definitely alive. And the other thing that I wanted to show you is over here. So this guy must be watermelon, and there are a few more. Angel put they in there. We had a few seeds of that left. Oh, see, there's another one. The idea is so that it grows over here. And further ahead, I can show you how the sweet corn came up and also other things. This got overseeded because I was doubtful about the viability of the seed that were quite old. But it appears that most of them germinated and are now growing. So it's not like it should be. There should be a space in between, but so be it. Doesn't matter. And yeah, also a few things. Not sure what it is. We will learn once that grows. And there are also a few other things. Some flowers there before, in front of the corn, so the other side. And there's a little bit more of the corn. So basically I've been putting in here old seed that I have. The idea was better to put it in the ground and see what happens instead of letting it sit and go bad. So we'll see. The trees are making new leaves. Of course they always looked a bit ruffled and feathered after planting, but then they make roots and feel at home. So things are working out here in this patch. And like I mentioned, this is supposed to become a garden area, because it's basically a rectangle, a square, and once the center has been filled, there will be a sprinkler in the center, so that most of it can easily be irrigated just by opening a valve. And of course we keep the hose. There is an outlet, a faucet, so that we can take care of the other pieces. And as you can see, the hose is pretty long, so I can go to all kinds of different places. And that allows us easily, because we see it multiple times a day, to keep things irrigated and do some maintenance. So that's the idea here. Of course this is not the farm, but as we decided to focus on the compound and then on the area around the compound and then on the area around that, that makes more sense. And to people new here, we are in the process of removing the cattle. We have removed other animals, and for the time being we will keep the dogs and the horses, and also the 7 sheep that we have. The sheep are useful for maintenance, so here and there they can graze on a strip to keep things short or something like that. And then when we are free of other things and the plants have grown, we will then continue in that direction and make the next zone, and that is the area where we can then also begin with some poultry. But we will not try to sell food to the local market, because there are too many challenges and too many things that can go bad and cost money in the end. So not going there. The idea is to focus now on ourselves, lift us up from a few failures and issues. Keep in mind, I'm still hoping to find some IT work, so few things need to wait, and once the money issue is out of the way, I hope by this autumn, the next big thing is then to build a barn there, and that barn will then be useful for other steps. So that's going to be a stepping stone. And you can see here things are growing. It's looking very nice. Combination of sun and rain is very, very useful. The dogs have spent the day inside their enclosure, and I'm now about to let them out. Over there it's looking pretty dark, so maybe another shower is coming. But that's all good. And these showers are not enough to actually fill up the swales and all that, but they replenish the water inside the soil, or what we have, especially there in area C, which is over there, up that slope. The soil is mostly sand and stones, and that means it looks like that, but a lot more stones. This here is pretty good in comparison, but it's still very sandy. So that means all the ideas that you can do in a different climate and with a different soil, they won't work here. And I'm very sorry to say this many times, because most of you guys don't live in a Mediterranean climate, and even if you live in a place like California, the history is different. So this here is a forest, and people have been overdoing it a little bit, and therefore now there are issues. And with 6 months without any drop of rain, which is usually the case, so by now we should have 35 centigrade and no rain at all, things have been very, very challenging, and therefore the land degraded a lot. So now this is unusual. Maybe this is now a new pattern because the climate is changing. Actually, I wouldn't mind if this were the new reality, but we are now shifting away from animals and away from any ideas regarding ham and beef and all this, except for our own consumption, and instead we plant trees, these guys, and a lot of them. So these are experiments to learn and for shade, so they will not be cut down. But over there in our zone C especially, where the soil is very bad, there we will have a lot of them. And now I say the soil is bad, the soil is not that bad for those trees. So the idea is to plant a lot of them. Yeah, remember, there are a few videos that show Paulownia trees in CT2, where we have a swale, and they are growing very, very well. And with some maintenance, I want to plant 400 per hectare, and this should be a commercial thing. So that means in 10 years we can then harvest them for wood, and of course we will plant a lot of native species between them also. So the idea is, instead of having a very, very open forest like the one that you see, this will be a very dense one, where you can hardly walk between all the different trees and shrubs on purpose. And then, once this is established, so let's say in 3, 4, 5 years, once a year, for a couple of days, we will then put some pigs in there to harvest the acorns. So make it a little bit more open, but it will be still a closed canopy, that's the point. And then we can have the poultry underneath that. Of course, the details need to be worked out. Stuff needs to grow first, and we need to figure out the irrigation. There will be a lot of automation for that, so there is a lot of technology involved instead of people, because people can fail and forget, and even a long weekend without irrigation might create a problem. So instead of relying on people, we will rely on technology, and everything will be automated. And humans will do installation and maintenance. So that is the new idea, and I will share the technical parts once I get to them. So we are in the 21st century. So let's use what we have available as tools. Going to be very interesting. So, and now I will let those boys and girls out, and they will immediately run to the house because they believe that there might be some treat. There isn't today, but most of the times there is. So let's see how that goes.